If you've been watching this channel for a long time, you know that I love to make fun of people who use levels in school buses, but if you listen close, you'll hear the sound of Chuck Cassidy changing his tone. And that's because I've discovered the magic of laser levels, and in particular, 3D laser levels. Wow. In today's video, I'm going to show you how using this tool can totally change your life when you're laying out walls, framing, or even cutting those hard to make templates for the front and back caps or curved dividers in your bus. My name's Chuck Cassidy. Don't go anywhere because today's video is not only going to feature a cool tool, but some cool tips and tricks with that tool to make your bus building experience easier. Don't go anywhere. You know we love a good tool around here, and we should probably start this video about laser levels by talking about the laser level itself. This here I picked up off the Amazon. There'll be a link in the bottom here if you want to get one yourself. And it's actually the second laser level that I bought. The first one I bought was not a three-dimensional laser level. It was only a two-dimensional laser level. And that means that it projected a horizon and then a vertical component as well that are perpendicular, of course. And that was pretty useful, but after a while I realized that what I needed most was actually something that would give me the horizon, the vertical, and then another one that runs this way in front of that, if that makes sense. 3 dimensions. And the reason for that is, if you can imagine being in a bus, if you want to build a wall across your bus from wall to wall, it's really nice to have something that will project that line across your bus, and you know it will be straight, so that when you're putting your pieces into place, you can just go until it touches that line, and then you know you're good. Before, we used to use string, tape measures, framing squares, and those are all great tools. I still use them all almost every day here in the shop, but this is quickly replacing them as a more accurate, quicker way to move that doesn't involve filling your bus with string everywhere, which can be a real mess to get through. So here's a quick explanation of how a laser level works. If you're familiar with a laser pointer, that's essentially what we have going in here, but the laser is split by a pointed mirror that you can almost see in there, and it broadcasts that laser out in a radius around it. And this being a three-dimensional one, it's got 3. It's got one here, and one here. And when we turn the laser on, it starts projecting that, and you can see it's projecting on me right now. Notice how it wobbles? That's because this laser, as all laser levels are, it has a gimbal in there, and the laser sits on that and it's self-leveling. You see that? Just like the bubble in a laser. And that's great in a house or something like that, but in a bus, what we're actually going to do is we're going to lock that in place. And once we lock that in place, see how now it's not doing the bubbly thing? That means that if we stick this on a camera tripod, anyone will work, or you can just simply prop it and shim it. You can then set it up so that it will go and touch your marks. Say if we're putting a wall in, mark on one side where you want it, mark on the other, and then you line up your laser lines with where that mark is. See this one on my shoulder? Say I've got a line here and another line across from me. Once that's lined up, we now have the laser existing in that plane. So we know as we bring our boards in, that'll be the framing or a wall or whatever, as soon as we see that green show up on our piece of material, we know that it's in plane. And that is so valuable. It's handy for all kinds of things. If you're installing cabinets and you want to make sure your cabinets are level or at least all on the same plane, you can do that, and you shim your cabinets up until they are hitting that. It's also true if you're trying to build a bed platform or do anything that requires a bunch of things in a row, like installing outlets, for example. Or let's talk about when we're framing our buses. You know, around here we like to run our strapping across the walls, and on the ceilings we like to run it the length of the bus, because this gives us that vertical line that's, as you can see on the inside of my hat, broadcasts on the ceiling of the bus. We can use that for making our center line and then just slide it down to the outside of the bus as we work our way down, installing each row of strapping. Super amazing tool. And this tool I think is only 130 bucks. And then you can go and pick up Amazon's cheapest tripod for another 30. And for under 200 bucks, you have a tool that's gonna not only save you hours and hours of labor, but it's gonna give you the ability to achieve a level of precision that's incredibly hard to get to with things like strings, straight edges, and framing squares, which I'm very well familiar with, but I'm so happy to leave behind. Now, real quick, I'm gonna take this inside the bus. I'm gonna show you what I've used it for on my project, what I'm going to be using it for, and we'll demonstrate a couple of techniques in real life to further convince you that you should probably buy one of these for your shop. Let's go in that bus. Okay, I want to start with one super handy way that you can use this level, which is when you're doing the layout phase of your framing. So this bus has already been spray foamed, obviously, and you can see we have our strapping already hung up in place. Now, typically what we would do is we would measure and find our center lines and then snap a line and then use that to index where our strapping goes. Now, if you look here, I've got this lined up pretty close to how you would like it. And what's great about this setup is that once this is in place, you can use this, hang your strapping, center it on your laser line going down, and then when it's time to do the next one over, you just simply slide your laser over, line it up on this. Keeping in mind, of course, I've got the gimbal on it locked, so it's not trying to level itself. I'm simply using this as a tool to generate perfectly straight lines across the bus. As you can see, we've got a line here, and you can just run that down the side, giving you lines so that all of your strapping goes right where you want it. The same is true on the walls, and this is where it's really handy. What you can do, for example, we measured up 16 inches, and so all of our strapping here, we go 16 inches on center. Measure up 16 inches off the floor in the back, 16 inches off the floor in the front. Do that on the other side. Lower your tripod down. You know, this one here has a hand crank and it has adjustable legs. Line this up, and then you know that you will have a line, which would be this line here, that goes all the way around the bus that's in the exact same plane. And that will tell you exactly where you want to hang your strapping on the walls. It's super handy. The same is true for the bed platform, or any type of elevated platform that you're trying to make that goes across your bus like this. Normally in a house, you'd use a level to make sure that you are level. Well, in the bus, level doesn't exist. We're just trying to be consistent with regard to the bus. So we make our measurements on each side, we raise or lower this to match that, and then we know as we build that frame, as soon as our framing hits that laser line, we're good to go. Another really handy use for this laser is when it comes time to install walls in your bus. Now, I'm not talking about these walls that are going here, but say we want a wall for a bedroom or a bathroom, which is what I'm doing right here in my bus. We want this wall to be in plane all the way across, and how can we make sure of that? Well, in the past, I would measure off the back of the wall or some other reference, and then actually tie a string and run that across, and that string would become my index for knowing where that wall needed to be. And that works great, but the problem is, if you want to move around in the bus, you've got strings all in the way, and anywhere that you want that reference, you need to have a string. So it means if you want to make sure this wall is straight up and down, you at least need a string at the top and a string at the bottom so that you know here, in this plane, you'll be up and down. What's great about the laser is that it's continuous. When we line up our laser with our measurements off the back of the bus, in our case, I'm going 60 inches off that back wall because that's the width of the bed that I'm installing. When I line up my laser with the 60 off there and the 60 off there, and with a reference on the floor, it will give me a plane, a laser plane, that is exactly where I want my bed to end and my bathroom wall to begin. And then I'll go in and I'll take my pencil and a straight edge and mark on my framing where the laser is landing. And that means when I go to install my dividers or my partitions or whatever I'm doing to frame out the walls or install the walls, if I hit that line, I know it's going to be in line, in plane with the lines directly across from it because the laser put them there. I'm going to get this set up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've got our laser level set up here, and I went ahead and dialed it into the height of my bed. If you can see here, I've got a mark here for my bed platform height. I've got a mark here, and then same on this side. I've got one here and one here. And then I went ahead and measured my 60 inches off of the back wall, which is what I need for the width of my bed. I did that actually down here, and then I did it up here. And I lined up my laser so that it's in line with that. And then I've got my height here. And now it's just a matter of going through with my pencil and coming in and anywhere that the line is hitting, it's hard to do there, and just making a mark where it hits, and then I'm gonna come back in with a straight edge and finish that off, just like I've done here. And you can see there's the line, and if we get out of the way, the laser's on it. So this will give me a wall that's right here, and this is gonna be my shower wall on this side, and then on the other side will be where my closet starts. And I know everything in here is square, it's plumb relative to the bus, you know, and it's ready to go. And it does take a couple minutes to get the laser set up just how you want it, especially if you have a crappy tripod like I do. But once it's set up, you're totally good to go. You can make as many marks as you want anywhere. And if you're curious about checking the height or something, you can always just drop a tape down and it'll show you where the laser is hitting your tape, and you'll know the height there. See how it's hitting my finger or my hands? This is my favorite thing to do with this tool. So you can see I've got my lines here for where I want the height of my bed platform to finish. I'll just take my straight edge, put it on the laser, and mark that with my pencil. And we'll do the same on this side. So I'm here, I got my friend Adam, and he actually cut this piece. I can't take any credit for that, but when we scribe these curved pieces, it's important to leave yourself enough room on the bottom so that you can really sneak up and get a nice tight fit up there, which is what we've done. But this piece we want to end here because we have a plane change happening. And to know exactly where we want that to be cut, what I've done is I've set up the laser to represent our halfway point across this. And we're gonna go ahead and take our piece that's cut nice, put it up there, and then mark where the laser hits, and then that will give us a line on this that will cut, and we'll use that to make that cut perfect so that our wall panels have nice seam breaks on them. This is a nice tight scribe, and this method works really great because you wanna make sure that you have enough material on your piece at all times. So then we just take a pencil and we're gonna mark on each end where the laser line hits. We'll connect the dots with the track saw out there on the bench, or whatever saw of your choice. And when this comes back in, we'll know exactly where it was cut. All right, so we made our cut using our laser line there. Now the next piece that we have to do is, this is actually going to be an access panel so that we can get to what is happening behind the AC unit or the mini split. And of course, once this goes up, we don't know where this framing is anymore. So what I've done is I've put the center line on the center of this with our laser, and then I've got the laser centered on the bottom here. And I know that the distance from the center of here to the center of here is 11.5 inches, and our total width is 34, so we'll just come 17 off of each side. So we're gonna bring in this piece that we cut just how we want it for the bottom, put it up there, and we'll mark this, make those plunge cuts, and then we'll be ready to finally install this piece for the last time, following the tried and true 26-step method. So I'm just gonna take my pencil, I'm gonna give us a mark here and a mark up here. We can connect those and that'll give us our center line. And then a mark out here and a mark out here will give us our lower line. And we know if we go up 11.5 and then out 17.5, or just 17 from each side, that'll give us the dimensions for our cutout and it'll be good to go. Well, that's gonna do it for this week's video, but I hope you've learned that it's never too late to teach an old Chuck new tricks, and trying out some of these newfangled tools the kids are into these days might just turn out to become one of your favorites. It saves you a lot of time and gives you a better result. Thanks for watching. My name's Chuck Cassidy. I got work to do. We'll see you next week.